Section 13 of Shadowland, November 1919. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Winifred Assman. Shadowland, November 1919, by Various. Fair and Warmer, by Gladys Hall. If Billy Bartlett hadn't been wallowing about in the last yellow rim of what he might have termed hell, if he had been that kind of a man, it might have occurred to him as an enormity that he was spending an evening alone with a woman. He might have included it in the category of things not quite nice, for Billy Bartlett was essentially nice. Nobody ever disputed that indisputable fact, not even his wife. Billy Bartlett had been sort of miserable for quite some months. He had been vaguely miserable since the first night Laura had not run to meet him on his return from the office, had not hurtled herself into his all-too-receptive arms, had not muttered unintelligible nothings into his ear. A dull ache had started on that night. The dull ache had persisted. It had grown to chronic violence when Laura remarked, during the course of that inexplicable evening, that she had run into Philip Evans, and he had taken her to tea. She had added, defensively, that there was no harm in that, as she could see. Billy knew vaguely that there was a great deal of harm in Philip Evans. He had heard tales, at clubs and elsewhere, confirmatory ones. He had seen things with his own eyes. And then there was the hurting fact that Laura had been engaged to Philip Evans before she did him, Billy, the ecstatic honor of preferring him. Philip was impossible, she confided to Billy once. On their honeymoon, he flirted with anything and everything, black, white, or yellow, so long as the creature wore skirts. It was altogether abominable. Now, it seemed, the promiscuous Philip was turning his eyes in the direction of Billy Bartlett's Laura, and Billy Bartlett's Laura did not appear to remember the term abominable. And so things had drifted wretchedly along for Billy, and thrillingly it seemed for Laura, until this hideous night. They had been dining together in their usual strained silence, and Billy had reminded Laura that the Jack Wheelers from the apartment above were coming in later for bridge. Laura had flushed to an instantaneous and bewildering red. She had said, almost angrily, that Billy was purposely obtuse, purposely torturing her, that he knew she was dated for the opera with Phil, and that she couldn't and wouldn't hurt Phil's feelings by an 11th-hour refusal. Billy thought silently that some people's feelings were always being swathed in cotton wool, while his, he shivered, and said that the nights were growing cool. Laura seemed to feel a need to rush on. She said a lot of unpleasant things. She said that Billy was cruel, that he was blind, and also, and many times, she said that he was stupid and duller than the proverbial dishwater. She compared Billy to a great many things relative to dishwater. She asked Billy what he meant anyway, and didn't he suppose she wanted any life just because she had gone and married him? Didn't he? Was a tomb to be her portion with a corpse that never even walked? She finished up by demanding that he give her a divorce, her freedom, her soul again. Billy's white face reflected his stricken soul. He pinched himself to find out if this thing were true. He pinched hard, and he remained in the same sick state. It was true, then. He realized, sitting dully there before her, that he loved her. There was something final in his love for her. He'd never get beyond it. It was a prison house of pain now. But a prison house he wouldn't leave for the license of the world wide. Yes, he loved her, and she was using his love for her as a scourge. When he asked her what he had done, when he reminded her that she had loved him once, she ignored the second observation to shriek hysterically, "What have you done? What have you done? Nothing. Absolutely nothing." Later on, the Jack Wheeler came down. Jack began explaining upon his entrance that he had forgot when he made the date that he was due at the mystic shrine. When he said it, he winked at Billy. Billy saw that he winked, but he was impervious to the meaning. Blanny went in to watch Laura dress, and Billy, who had known Jack a long time, blurted out the ache in his heart. Jack laughed. "That's a woman for you," he said. "All you need to do, old man, is to give her a dose of her own quinine. Play a game yourself. Flirt a bit. Keep her waiting nights. Let her discover a scented note or so. Be a devil of a fellow." Billy shook his solemn head. "I don't want any woman on terms like that, Jack," he said. "I want the real article or nothing." Jack gave a disgusted grunt and rose to go. "You'll get nothing, old man," he said. "This mystic shrine stunt of mine covers a multitude of sins. Nothing like it. Nighty, you and Blanny play cards like good kids, and I'll stop in for her on my return. If I return." With which cryptic utterance he departed. Half an hour later, Laura departed too. Billy felt that she had departed finally. At least, she would never come back any more to him. An end had come. He couldn't help talking to Blanny. He felt sorry for her, and he felt bitterly sorry for himself. He felt that he had not deserved this. He had been willing to give to his uttermost. Some small return should have been his. Blanny was there, and he talked to her. He didn't think of her as a woman, even as a person. He had got out of the habit of thinking of the opposite sex as women anyway, since Laura had cut like a flame into his gray days and burned all other interests into nothingness. He told Blanny about that, about how much he loved her, and how he had never loved before and never would again. He told her, whimsically, that he was that kind of a man. A one-woman man, he said, and repeated it. It had a high sound to it. He said that Laura was different. She was like a kaleidoscope. She shifted, he said. It should make him love her less, he knew, but it didn't. It had, alas, the opposite effect. He loved her now, at this moment, to desperation. He got on to the subject of death as an alleviation. After a while, Blanny broke in on him softly. She had like woes. Jack stayed out so much, seemed to like to stay out. There was one poignantly unforgettable occasion, the night he had stayed out first. She had cried herself to sleep. She had grown old that very particular night. Things were all wrong. The world was unfair. Love was a snare and a delusion. Men were not to be trusted, she added timidly, some men. But Billy did not register the soft apology. He was only catching 1 word in 10 anyway. His mind was with Laura at the opera and Philip at her side. Philip, who should not dare to touch the hem of her garment. Philip, who had cared so much. He did get the fact, though, that Blanny was sympathetic. She was pouring the fragrant oil of her sympathies upon his more than troubled waters. He began to feel a bit warmer. The raw edges of the just inflicted wound did not smart quite so violently. He looked at Blanny. She was little and soft, and, he decided with a gleam of treachery, appealing. Not radiant like Laura, of course, not vital and compelling. A sweet little thing, a balm. Billy's own hurt goaded him. It was not fair for this little soft thing to be deceived by mystic shrines and such like claptrap. Was there no chivalry? Still, what did chivalry get one? Mortal wounds and pain that rusted away one's sensibilities. He blurted out to Blanny that there was no mystic shrine. He took a vicarious pleasure in the pain that stabbed into her eyes. He was not able to supply what there was in place of the toppled shrine. Blanny's imagination did that. Outrage entered her appalled mind. She declaimed against Laura and Jack, singly and in doubles. She declaimed, amazingly, for a soft, small person. It came to Billy that once Kipling had versified about the female of the species. Kipling, he concluded, had the right idea. It resulted after several twin diatribes upon what to do. Billy thought that going to the devil might be good. Blanny thought so too. She inquired the most direct route to the devil. Billy thought drink. It had a motivating power, he had heard. Blanny said that she didn't keep any drinks in her apartment. Her mother had brought her up differently. Billy said that his mother had had the same idea. Made it sort of clubby, didn't it? But that Laura insisted upon the requisite stuff for cocktails and a moet or two. There was enough on hand, he felt sure, for a shortcut to the nether regions. The rest of the material was surprisingly handy. He was the other man. She was the other woman. Blanny said it was all awful, but her heart was broken, and she would show Jack Wheeler. Billy said his heart was broken, and he would show Laura Bartlett. Forthwith he produced a laden tea cart, containing ingredients enough for various satanic round trips. Blanny regarded it with pigeon toes and awe. It had a fearful aspect. Billy regarded it and bade farewell to the vanished might-have-been. He had had ideals. Tonight he would drown them. He would drink, and there was another woman right to his hand. He would do his worst, his damnedest. He mixed the drinks. He knew one did something vague called mixing the drinks, and he mixed. Oh, he mixed. Laura thought he had mixed when she had sipped the first half of the first round. Going to the devil was rather a noxious proceeding, she thought, with the first sip. But after the first sip, one didn't seem to mind so much. After several, one didn't mind at all. One didn't know at all what one was doing. Blanny thought that Billy was being awfully silly. He played the pianola, and they danced. Blanny knew that she had never danced in such a wise before. Then Billy had an affectionate gust. She felt affectionate. Broken hearts. They talked quite a great deal about broken hearts. Billy said he was bleeding to death. She kissed him, and then he said that he wasn't. Billy talked about love. He said he was getting a new perspective. Blanny didn't know that he said that because his enunciation was suffering en route to the devil. Still later, hours, eons, eternities, she felt, were slithering by. Still later, sleep attacked them both. Something told them that sleep under the circumstances would never do. They would have to be doing something livelier than sleep. The devil was never like that. They mixed more rounds. Things were very round indeed. When things were roundest, the door opened, and Laura stepped into the room. Back of her was Jack Wheeler. Philip Evans was back of him. There was, from the three spectators, an abysmal silence. From Billy there was a series of hiccups, painful in the extreme. Also, his eyes rolled about like marbles on a slippery floor. He had the attitude of a flounder cast ashore after a very wet session. From Blanny there was inarticulateness and a flow of wet and very sloppy tears. Her husband gathered, too, the brimstone fact that she and Billy Boy, had arrived with expedition at the devil, that it was nice at the devil, that she thought she would stay at the devil for ever and ever, amen. Only Jack could gather the information from the strange sounds, but then Jack knew his Blanny, or had so thought. Laura tore her hair. She told Philip to go away from the scene of her final disgrace. She said that she would spend the rest of the night packing, and that, if need be, she would hail a policeman to save her from that creature. She said acidly, but it was all lost on Billy, happy Billy, floating in his alcoholic mist, that the divorce proceedings would be begun bright and early this a.m. Jack tore what of Blanny's hair he could get his furious fingers into. Blanny told him a mystic shrine had toppled. Jack told her that she had toppled along with the shrine, and there was nothing mystic about it either. He informed Billy, relapsing into Morpheus, that he had better gibber to God instead of the devil, because he was destined to meet him in the morning. He, Jack, would return when he had dealt with Blanny and assist him on his way. He departed, with Blanny still gurgling under his arms. Laura spent the remainder of the night dragging suitcases about and giving Billy pieces of her mind, which he never received, being noisily somnambulant. It was odd for Laura to talk to an adamantine Billy. It aroused in her a faint curiosity. It invested Billy with a sort of dignity, a withdrawal, a reserve. Laura felt piqued. Even, she thought, in his cups, the wretch he had not ought to be impervious to her presence. What was that he had told her about being earth in an earthy bed? That he still would see her and hear her, and his heart, what was it? Would blossom in flowers of purple and red. Had he been deceiving her all along? He and that baby doll Blanny? Two of a kind, certainly. Had they been playing a single game, cleverly? Going just last night a bit beyond the limits? Was that it? Had Billy never been hers? Oh, men! Early in the morning, Laura went out. She wanted to phone Philip Evans that she would not meet him for luncheon. She didn't know why she wouldn't, but she felt that she didn't want to leave until she left for good, while that Blanny person was around. When she returned, the furniture movers were in the hall. She had notified them the day before, when, under Philip's whirlwind ardor, she had decided about the divorce and the immediate breakup. Perhaps they would frighten Billy, the imminence of the furniture movers. It did. He reared up in bed and implored Laura for more time. He said it was undignified of her. It was literally imposing the take up thy bed and walk. It was an outrage from the Dark Ages. It was extreme humiliation. The furniture movers shifted noisily. Laura reminded him that humiliation was his middle name. Something stirred beneath the bed, and the furniture mover yowled. Billy groaned and dropped back. Laura glared at him, and then transferred her glare to the spot at which the furniture mover was staring. Blanny's head protruded like the head of a turtle from its shell just below the footboard of the bed. "I came down for," began Blanny, crawling out. "I didn't know you were out, Laura. I came for—" "I hope you got what you came for," screamed Laura. Oh, this is outrageous. This is perfidy. This is, oh, what isn't it? Will someone tell me?" "'Tisn't decent, Mum," vouchsafed one of the movers readily. "That's what it isn't." "I know what it is, Mum," vouchsafed a second. "My missus has the same habits, Mum. Orful, that's what I calls it." Laura moaned again. "To think I trusted you," she kept saying. "You of the race of man. While all the time, oh, take me home to Mother." Blanny vanished into the bathroom beyond. It was all too much for her. There was no mystic shrine, she remembered that. She felt that she hated Billy for telling her so. It had caused all the trouble. It was just like the time a big boy had told her that there was no Santa Claus. It had hurt her in the same way. She had never enjoyed her Christmas any more after that. Now she could never enjoy her husband any more. Hysteria was rising rapidly when the maid came to the foreground and said she had not been axed, but what with all the goings-on, she felt she oughter tell that Mr. Bartlett, bless him, was innercent as a lamb, and the young lady from apartment 66 had just come inquiring for her man. All the fuss was for nothing if she was axed, which she wasn't, and so could she be excused. Jack, hard upon her heels, overheard, and was grandiloquently forgiving. He felt that he had to atone for the shrine. He even told Blanny, between kisses, that the shrine was merely a name for jackpots, and he had used it to save her feelings, which were delicate, and her principles, which were methodistic, and hence anti-poker. He added that she was his baby-waby, itty-bitty, tootsie-wootsy, and he'd get her spiffed himself some night, yes he would, and to come home to Papa and not be naughty any more. Jack also hissed in Billy's ear to take a bracer, not the kind he had had in the night, but a mental bracer, to get a little backbone where his wishbone had been, and to tell Laura to go as far as she liked, and then some, and that if she wanted a divorce he'd not only let her have it, but go and get it for her, that there were as good fish, etc., ad nauseam. Billy thought it was good dope. Going to the devil had not been without its due effect. There was a stimulus, removing this morning after tragedy. Also there was the kiss Blanny had given him just before his complete immersion. Rather sweet, and ummy and all that. Other fish, well. Of course he loved Laura. He knew that right enough. There could never be another Laura. But he had cut his eye teeth, and he wasn't going to drool about any longer. He was going to bite. At high noon Laura came in to him, and he didn't give her her customary first word. He sat erect and rampaged his hair and looked fierce and devil-may-care, and told her that she needn't trouble about the divorce, that he would get it himself, and be damn glad to, and that he guessed that would be about all. A fare thee well, he said. He wished her luck. Laura began to weep. A little shaft of light lit up her understanding. Life suddenly presented itself to her without any Billy anywhere at all. And lo, life grinned at her with fleshless force. She remembered their honeymoon, and something gripped her throat. She remembered the plans they had made, and the dreams they had dreamed. She remembered last night, and Philip Evans, slipping a note to a chorus girl at the table next theirs. She remembered the song she had heard, Love Comes But Once. She stumbled over to him and got down on her knees. She was desperately homesick. "Oh, Bill," she sobbed. "Oh, Bill, can you love a fool? Can you love a fool?" Bill gathered her in his arms. "Does the fool love me?" he wanted to know. "Oh, does she?" came from his shoulder. "Oh, does she? Oh, Bill." End of section 13.